All right, good morning, family. It's Tasha, Mom Bear Prepping. You already know what time it is. Get your drink, pull up. This is cup number 2 for me, you guys. Ooh, I'm doing it big. So normally I only do about 1 cup in the morning, maybe 2 if I'm really feeling it. But typically it's just 1, right? And then I move into water. So I'm on cup 2. It's raining outside, and I'm just trying to figure out kind of what I want to do today, right? What do I want to get done today? Lots of things to do, a couple errands, got to get the puppy vaccinated, his second shots, and we'll just go from there. Okay, hair's out of control. So today I want to talk about a big topic. I've been getting a lot of ideas from you guys, either people that have been reaching out to me or just a lot of questions about different things. And this topic keeps coming up as far as me, people emailing me, DMing me, asking me questions about food and how do they make this work, okay? I'm also getting a lot of people still asking me, you know, how can they do this on a fixed income with little to no money? I actually got a rude comment, a little bit of a ruder comment on yesterday's video in line with this as well. You know, basically that I'm being a little, I guess, insensitive and rude by telling people basically you can do this, but you just have to buy all this stuff. And then therefore they don't have any money to buy it. And, you know, how can they possibly do this? I've already done several videos on how to do this in a cheaper way. I can do it again, and maybe with some more brainstorming, I can come up with even fresher ideas of how you can do this with little to no money. It is possible, okay? Now, specifically what I want to talk about today is food and making space for food. Ideas and ways to make space in your home for food, because I have a lot of people like, I don't have room for this, I don't have space for this, or I live in I live in a studio, or I live in an apartment, or I only have so much space, or I live with people, I'm a roommate, whatever, right? And so I want to just give you basic ideas of how you can store food, keep food, and then you can go from there. Now, this is not necessarily where to hide food. That's different. I have a different video on where to hide food. I'll try to link that today, you guys. But this is more of, you know, getting creative and figuring out and making sure you're utilizing all of your space for food. And then, of course, we'll go over some extra tips at the end. So number 1 thing I have, and I'm going to mark these as I go to make sure that I hit them all, is closet organization units, right? Really, you know, it's one thing to put food and different things stacked up in a closet. You absolutely could do that, right? Could you buy flats of vegetables and just stack them up in a closet? Absolutely. And that would utilize all the space. If you have stuff that is modular like that, square and easily stackable, absolutely could do it. If you do not have stuff, or that's a closet that you have more of different items in it that are not as just stackable like that, could you put shelving in there? Yes, but think about organization. So there's organization units and different closet things that you can buy that to make your closet more organized, right? Whether that's boxes, whether that's, yes, you could do a fancy, but I'm not even talking about a whole redo of a closet with shelving and stuff, but you can do a lot of things with even those hanging baskets, with totes, with boxes, with different cutouts. Just think about the space and filling the entire space and making it with organized units, okay? Number 2 thing I have is shelving, specifically under sinks and those type of areas. Lower level cupboards that either maybe you don't typically use, maybe you use them for pans in the kitchen, use it for pans or other clunky things. Maybe it's under the kitchen sink, or maybe it's even the bathroom sink. It's a little disorganized. That's a space that a lot of people, it goes up quite a ways, some of them up to the sink, right? But we're only utilizing that first layer of shelving, right? We might have some baskets or something like that in there, under there, that's holding some different cleaners or different things like that. But then beyond however tall those cleaners are, there's usually quite a bit more space, okay? So getting a shelving that you can put in there where you're able to have another whole entire shelving of different items, okay? Just take a look with these things on this list, just afterwards, take notes, and then afterwards walk through your house looking at these different areas to see where you have extra space that you're maybe not utilizing. Number 3 thing I have, or tip or ways you can do, is purchasing or having furniture that has storage. Today, there's so many creative things that you can buy on the market. Beds that lift up that have storage, couches that do the same, lift up. You have trunks, you have ottomans that open up that have storage, armoires, and just all types of different pieces of furniture that purposely have been built to have the function of storage within them. Okay. So just take a look at what's on the market if you are trying to buy a piece of furniture. Now, obviously, I'm not saying replace your furniture. That's quite expensive. But if you're out and you're looking for a piece of furniture, or you're trying to replace a piece of furniture, or you have budgeted to get a piece of furniture, be thinking about possibly getting that furniture that has some kind of built-in into it. Okay. There is furniture too that people just will make, into storage right underneath beds, parts of box springs where that whole space is open. People will, lift it up, open it up, and make it into its own storage. So there's some do-it-yourself type stuff you can do as well. But think about that. I'm not saying go out and replace, you guys, but I'm saying think about what you're buying and being able to use it for multiple things. Okay. That's going to be a theme, I think, moving forward with all things. When I'm purchasing something, what can I get out of that product, that thing? Can it be used for multiple things, right? Because it's going to come down to money and inflation and not being able to afford things, okay? Next tip or trick I have, or ways to make space for food, is dehydrating food. When you dehydrate food, it shrinks it down so much. I remember when I had dehydrated strawberries last year, a couple years ago, I dehydrated a whole flat. I was like, I'm going to do this whole flat. This is a ton of strawberries. I can't wait to do this. It was like half a jar of a quart-sized jar, you guys. It was like nothing. So when you dehydrate food, it's way reduced space that it would take to obviously keep that food fresh. I did lemons one time, and I had bags and bags of lemons, and it ended up being like 3 jars. And it only ended up being 3 jars because they were the way I cut them, right, for fitting, okay? But I could have easily put them in Mylar. That's probably what I should have done, is put them in Mylar bags. But when you dehydrate, it just really reduces the size of the food, which then gives you more space, okay? That goes into my number 5, which is right after that, which is powdering. So then you take dehydrated food and then you take it even a step further and powder it, and it takes it down even more, okay? So I know a lot of people who powder a lot of their foods because of that, right? Instead of keeping dehydrated, let's say spinach, they'll take it down to a powder, and then they can add that to soups and stews later, get that nutritional value, but yet for storage purposes, it took very little space to be able to do that, okay? So powdering foods is my number 5. Number 6 is buying freeze-dried. Same idea, except somebody else did it. A company did it for you. They freeze-dried it. Now, freeze-drying doesn't take it down completely, I've noticed, right? It tends to keep it a little bit formed, right, to more of a normal size. It does reduce it a little bit, but, freeze-dried food kept in, convenient number 10 cans that are stackable. It just makes it very easy. It's a reduced amount of food, lots of food that they can end up fitting in a number 10 can. And like I said, even if you get those by the case, those stack well. Even if you get those just a number 10 can here and there, they stack well. And so I really like freeze-dried food for that reason, for when it comes to space and stacking stuff. Number 7 thing I have is dressers and hutches. So again, just having a dresser and throwing a dresser into a closet, an extra dresser into a closet, or having more dressers in your room than just the one that you use for your clothes, okay? Or having dressers in the garage or in a shed and then throwing food into those items, into those dressers, and not using them for food, obviously. This idea I love. Hutches, armoires, anything like that, I think is awesome. If you have a space, you have a wall, you have a corner, get something like this, throw it in there. You can make it, fit your decor. You can, decorate it and put things on it, but then the drawers you have concealed and have food in there. And it's another space to keep, preparedness items. It doesn't have to even be food. It could be food. It could be your extra hygiene items. It could be any of that stuff. Okay. But I'm a huge fan of extra dressers, and it's very hard for me to throw away a dresser. Very, very hard, because I constantly am thinking, no, there's something we can do with that old dresser. Absolutely. There's space somewhere where I could put this thing and utilize the drawers and put stuff in it. Stick it outside and use it for putting in all your extra gardening stuff. Okay. Don't get rid of dressers unless they're totally just dilapidated. But then at that point, if the wood is good, okay, then tear them down and use the wood for something else. Okay. So it's very hard for me to get rid of dressers. Dressers I could use all day long. Number 8 thing I have is more freezers. So obviously, if you don't have the money to get this, but if you've been thinking about, hey, maybe we'll get an extra freezer or chest freezer, hey, do that. If you can't, no big deal. This isn't some kind of show out thing, like, you know what I'm saying? If you can't afford that, then you can't afford that. No big deal. But it is an idea for being able to get more food in your home, right? Another place to store food. Obviously, common sense. If you have an extra fridge or freezer, even if it's in your garage or whatever, that's another place for food. Okay. Number 9 thing I have is vac sealing meat. So quite a few people do this, but I noticed that even people that vac seal, a lot of them, they get into vac sealing other things like dry foods, snacks, things like that, but they don't get into vac sealing meat. Okay, vac sealing meat is awesome. It keeps your meat longer, right? Keeps that freezer burn away a little bit longer. And when you vac seal, it tends to flatten it out, and then it's easier to stack the meat in the fridge. Okay, so instead of some, because even if you say you got a big bulk thing of meat and you split it up, right, into different meals, and you put it in, let's say, a gallon baggie or whatever, it's not always going to be nice and flat, where if you vac seal it, a lot of times that process flattens out, and then it's much easier to stack stuff. Okay. And write on it to say what it is. It's just an easier process. It takes a little bit longer, but in the long run, it will give you and afford you more space to then put more meat in there or more food, whatever. Okay. It will give you more space in your freezers. So if you have just a normal fridge freezer combo, right, and you don't have that much space in your freezer, by vac sealing your meat, you're able to stack it a little bit better. Okay. Number 11 thing I have is can water in your empty jars. So again, this is just a way to really utilize all space you have. I learned this a while ago. I have yet to do this, just so you know. I don't typically have a ton of empty canning jars. I typically have maybe 2 to 4 cases that are not filled at a time, but typically it's because I've just bought them because I'm planning to do some big canning projects. I can them and then I put them in. And then of course I have my rotation jars that are coming back. And so I know that I'm going to get to the point where I'm not even going to buy them anymore. But, or maybe I get to the point where I don't really need jars in the sense of because I need them to can because I'm rotating enough, but that I want some in the preps just so that I have them later as jars chip and get compromised, and those jars are rotated a couple times and then can't be used anymore because they get damaged or whatever. And so then maybe that's where I would spend the time filling them with water and pressure canning them. I don't know, you guys. But if you do have a lot of jars empty, this is a way that you can utilize that space for a special commodity. Okay, something like water is super important, and we're always talking about ways to keep water, and this is a genius way to keep water. Okay, so do that. Number 11 I have is stackable totes. So That's simple, just getting totes, organizing stuff, getting totes, putting them in the totes because they're easy to stack, organize. They're easy if for any space that you're trying to fill. They're an easy way to do it, right? Whether that's a garage, whether that's an upper space, whether that's a closet, under a bed. It really doesn't matter. A corner of the house, it doesn't even have to be a room per se, right? But totes are very, very easy, very, very simple. Put food in them, cover them up, put them somewhere. And then people can't see what they are anyway, okay? That was number 11. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any. Okay, number 12 is buckets. Now, some people are not fans of the 5-gallon buckets. I am still a fan of 5-gallon buckets because of their stackability. Literally, you could take a closet. Let's say the closet's being used for other stuff, right? You're like, I don't have an extra closet to just fill up with preps. It's being used. It has stuff in it, has jackets, whatever. Maybe you're able to reorganize it, right? Because we all know that just reorganizing a space makes room. When you go in and you reorganize it and you clean it, you will come up with new space. And then you just take a corner of the closet, not very much space at all, and just stack buckets all the way up. Stack them all the way up to the rod, and then keep going with whatever space you have above the shelving that's typically above the rod, okay? And even if you just did that in that one corner, that's several buckets. I'd venture that's probably at least 6 buckets that you can get in the corner of most closets, okay? But I love it, and they can fit a lot of stuff in them, depending on what you're doing, right? You can put bulk items in there, bulk staples in there. You can put individual items in there. You can put stuff that you've vac sealed in individual little vac seal bags and Mylar bags and put them all in one and put it up there. There's just a lot that you can do with that, right? Those 6 buckets, man, I'm probably doing 1 rice, 1 beans, 1 pasta. I'm probably doing 1 with just 1 pound bags of flour. I'm probably doing 1 with flour. I'm probably doing 1 with seasonings, mostly salt, some black pepper, and a few other seasonings. Boom, that's my 6 in the corner. Okay, that's a lot right there, just in those little 6 buckets that you have in the corner of your closet. Okay, so don't sleep on buckets. Number 13 thing I have is under your beds, right? Something as simple as just like, our bed, for example. We have cases of water that are slid under the bed. There's space above the bed, right? We've slid cases of water, large cases of water, and then you have the bed skirt. Nobody's the wiser. People can come over, look at your bed. Maybe you have maintenance people come over, whatever. You have tons of water on your bed. Nobody's the wiser. Nobody knows. You can do this with totes. Put food in totes. Slide it under the bed. There's a ton of stuff that you can do. Just slide in under your bed. Just figure out how tall your bed is, because I get it. Some people are like, well, my bed's not tall enough, right? Some people, you'd have to get smaller totes, put some stuff in them. They have those baskets like for shoes that are not very high that typically will fit maybe under some of these beds that are much lower. Fill those with canned goods, slide them under instead of shoes, okay? If you can't get under all the way because your bed, the railings go all the way to the ground, but there is potentially space between that and where your mattress starts, then just take the bed apart, take the mattresses off, put that stuff in there in that space, then put the bed back together, right? Have the rails, put all that stuff that I'm talking about, the little low profile baskets, fill them up with canned goods, and then put the railings and the box spring and the mattress back, okay? If you have to do it, if you can't slide it. But under the bed is a very simple way that most people, hopefully I'm not being too general and hurt somebody's feelings. Like, not everybody has a bed. Okay, I understand, okay? But most people, a lot of people have a bed, okay? And you can do this under the children's beds. You can do this under guest bedroom beds, but just beds alone, that is a ton of unusable space, a ton of space. Now, I know a lot of you guys are already on game and I'm sure we're going to hear in the comments, oh, I have this under my bed, all this stuff. That's amazing, okay? If you are somebody that is not utilizing the space in your bed, that alone is amazing. Nobody questions if there's little baskets under the bed or little totes. they're just, oh, it's just storage. They just have extra shoes or extra clothes or whatever in there, extra garbage, right? And they just have it stored under their bed for storage. Nobody's going to question and be like, do you have food under your bed? No. Okay. So get on game with the bed. If you have not done any of this stuff and you're just overwhelmed, there's a couple things that you could do that will make a world of difference. Okay. Number 14 thing I have is high vertical and dead spaces. So this might not work for everybody, but what I want you to do is walk around your home and see what you have. A lot of apartments have things that are built up, right? Nice in built-ins and inlets and things like that, but it ends up having dead space or dead shelving that's way up high, right? Where you could put maybe some plants or something like that. But a lot of those places, you can put a tote or you can put a basket full of stuff, and you can make it nice and make it look like a decor. You guys, you walk into my house, it doesn't look like I prep or do anything even close to that. Okay. It's a normal house. It looks normal. Even if you go digging, you're not going to find crazy stuff because I'm a genius mostly, but you're not gonna, and a lot of stuff is part of decor. You make it look like it's just, oh, that's cute. And they have no idea really what they're even looking at and putting it together. Yes, there's some things I can't hide that I have to explain sometimes, like the huge ass Berkey we have, right? But again, that's easy to just, I like filtered water and I'm sick of, replacing those little small, Berta filters and that little small water container, refilling it 20 times a day. I just got a bigger size one. That's all. So you can downplay it is what I'm saying. But look at the dead space. We have a ton. We have an older house. And so there's a lot of built-ins. And even the closets in some room are built in a way where they're not built all the way up. And so there's dead space above. And so utilizing that dead space, but utilizing it in a way that people aren't like, well, that's weird. Why do they have that up there, right? Making it your decor and making it fit in and utilizing that space and being creative. Next thing I have is garages or sheds. Now, the only thing I want to say about this is utilize these spaces for everything that you can. Water is a good one. Other preps, other things, right? Extra buddy heaters, extra things, okay? Doesn't have to necessarily be food. We do have some freeze-dried food out in the garage. You need to be careful with anything that you've pressure canned. You need to be careful even with some locations with heat and stuff and freezing with canned goods as well. You've got to be careful with that, but because you don't want stuff to get compromised because of heat, pop and seals, things like that. So you got to be careful what type of food you're putting out there, but there's a lot of other preps then that you could keep out there. Totes full of, hygiene and tampons and toilet paper and stuff like that, soaps and different things like that. You could 100% keep out there. All your bushcraft stuff, all your extra blackout stuff, all your extra things like that. Keep that in totes out in the garage, out in the sheds. Make space for the food in the house, okay, so that you can keep it regulated with heat and coolness and things like that. Number 16 thing I have is organize your pantry and your food cupboards. Every single time I do this, I come up with more space, okay? We all know that a kitchen is lived in, it gets messy, things get moved around, you go shopping, you just throw stuff in. Pantries especially are horrible with just stuff gets thrown in there. Then before you know it, you can't find stuff is just hidden. If you organize it and organize in a way where, okay, I'm going to have all my vegetables here, I'm going to have all my meats here, all my soups here, reorganize it, you will be surprised how much space. I did this in California in my little apartment pantry. That thing was busting from the seams. It was so full. I had so much food crammed into this little pantry, and I was like, this is crazy. And the shelves were long, right? They were deep, and so there was all types of food. It's horrible system for me having to rotate food, seeing expiration dates. It just was too much, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to organize it. I took everything out and slowly, methodically put it back in order in a certain way. Had stickies on what shelf first I was going to put certain things on. And there was so much space left. I would probably say half of the pantry was open after I did that. So simply doing that in your other cupboards that have food and different things, even cupboards that don't have food, have other things, medical supplies, other things. Organize those drawers, organize them. There's more space everywhere when you just organize stuff, okay? If you, before I go to number 17, if you simply reorganize your pantry, put some stuff under the bed, you will be so far ahead of the game. And you can have a studio apartment and do what I just said. Utilize your bed space under your bed and organize your pantry, redo it. Will utilize a lot of space. And then if you have a studio, you have an apartment, you get smart. You go vertical. You make sure you're using all your vertical space. You get smart storage things, pieces, right? Extra dressers, armoires, whatever wall space for furniture you can squeeze in there, you're going to do that, okay? You have space in front of your bed, maybe the whole wall area is taken, but you have space on the front part of your bed, maybe where people would put chairs or a little trunk. Put a little chest or a little trunk there, put stuff in it, okay? Think how you can do this. Put a dresser. Forget the chest. Put a whole long 6-drawer dresser in front of your bed and put stuff on it. Put some nice foliage plants on top of it. Make your room look all nice and pretty. But in that bad boy, put a bunch of food in it, okay? It doesn't take a lot of space. You can do this if you tell yourself you can do it, okay? Don't make excuses about, I just don't have space. I have an apartment. I have a studio. You can do it. Will there be a cap? Absolutely. There will be a cap at some point where it's just too much. You're like, okay, I think it's just too much. I have a lot and I can't fit anymore. Number 18 thing is vertical shelving. So again, I keep saying vertical, but just thinking about like inside closets, above the shelving. Is there space where you can put more shelving? Vertical shelving in general, right? You have extra space, extra room, utilizing the space you have basically with shelving, with vertical shelving, even if it's in a shed, in a garage, having that shelving. Sturdy metal shelving or wood shelving that you've built maybe. But hardy vertical shelving is just an easy way because you can throw it up quickly and then boom, be stacking food. Okay. Let me see. That was 18. 19 is hallways and landings. So I know a lot of apartments even and homes, you'll have some sort of wider hallway or landing type area. It's maybe not really a hallway per se, but it's more of just a big area that kind of connects all the rooms, or a landing area that's not really quite big enough for like a whole room, but it's a big area that is typically, a lot of places, is a dead space. Okay, so figuring out what you can do, even if this space is already dedicated to something, right? It's like a little movie enclave, or it's a little kid play area. Utilize your space with your organization shelving around that room, right? Armoires, different things with doors, and again, so you can hide it. It just looks like it's part of that space, whatever that space is, and not necessarily, you're stacking food like a grocery store, right? So think about that. And then the last thing I have is rethink your guest bedrooms, right? So taking your guest bedrooms, making a space for your guests, but utilizing every single space, especially knowing that most of the time somebody is not there, right? So that's under the bed. That's in, yes, you might have a dresser that's dedicated to them. They don't need a big dresser though, right? They're a guest. So get a smaller dresser for your guests and fill the rest of the room with other armoires, dressers, nightstands, and fill that stuff up, right? You have nightstands, fill the bottom drawer, put a piece of wood, or fill both drawers and put a piece of wood, and they have a little bit of space for their stuff, right? If they came and wanted to put the watch or a phone or something in there, right? Their charging cords, but they don't need, it's a guest, they don't need all those drawers all the way down, right? So think about that. The closet, any kind of extra space that's in the room, really think about that and utilize the space. And you can do this creatively by still keeping it in nice space for when guests come, and they have a bed and a TV and a dresser, somewhere to put their clothes, and live in the room. But think about it when you're putting this room together with the mind of space for food so that you're not wasting the space, and it's just a space that's open all the time. I mean, you can have 2 armoires, let's say, nicely on either side of a bed, let's say, or either side of the room, right? And they're filled with stuff, okay? And then you can put a lock on them or keep them shut. They're not even for the guests to use, but you can do it in a way where it looks very, very nice in the room, okay? Decor wise, if you guys are worried about it looking crazy, right? You know, the point of this video is to hopefully answer the folks that have been emailing me and messaging me about how do I come up with more space? How do I make more space in my home? I'm having a hard time, you know, I keep getting stuff, but I just have stuff everywhere. It's not organized. I don't know what to do with it. You know, I only have, this is the things I'm hearing, you know, I only have a studio. Where do I put all these preps? I only have an apartment. Where do I put all these preps? Our apartment in California, those apartments, everywhere we lived, when we lived in an apartment, were full, okay? Full to the brim, okay? I had stuff everywhere, okay? However, I always knew it was temporary. And so it wasn't as organized as it could be. It wasn't as hidden as it could be. It wasn't all these things, right? But I always said, you know, to Bay, to my hubby, I always said, man, if we were to stay in an apartment, like that was our destiny. That's what we could afford. That's where we were going to be. And we didn't have this house here, right? My organization game would have been completely different, because I would have known that's the end game. That's my long term. I have to make that work. And how do I make that location the best possible? And so there would have been longer term things that I would have employed and utilized in that space. But because I knew it was always temporary, it just was like, hey, let's just stack it to the rafters and who cares, right? Because we're not going to be here forever. This is just, you know, we're just in a moment in time with these apartments, right? Because we knew eventually we'll retire and we're going to come back to the home here, which is where we're at now. So hopefully this 20 things helped. Some other little tips: places to find dressers, and storage units and different things. Habitat for Humanity, one of my favorite places to go and get pieces of furniture, to get a old trunk, to get a dresser, to get a hutch, to get a armoire. I start at Habitat for Humanity. That's the first place I go, see what they have. Thrift stores, okay? Multiple thrift stores out there. Travel if you have to the bigger Goodwill, right? See what type of furniture they have, what type of things they have, okay? Obviously, garage sales, Craigslist, eBay, Marketplace, all of those things. Again, when I'm looking for furniture, I don't have Facebook no more, okay? But hubby does. So when we're looking for something, we're going to Habitat for Humanity. We're going to Marketplace. We're going to where somebody we know is selling stuff for a cheaper, it's a used item, and that's where we go. We're not going and buying brand new stuff. If I had to get brand new stuff, I would probably say IKEA. IKEA you want to be careful with, because some stuff can be once put together be a little bit cheaper. When I say cheaper, more wobbly, could be more not as sturdy as you may need for the product that you're putting into it. But IKEA has great prices, and they have a lot of modular armoire type storage sections and things that you can buy. Okay, so I am a big fan of IKEA. We haven't bought IKEA for a while, but that did used to be one of my old school go-tos for cheap armoire, storage type, dresser type pieces, okay? But over the years, I've gotten smarter because there's a lot of cheaper ways to do things, okay? I think that was all my tips on places to get different things. I'm real curious to hear in the comments below things you guys are doing, things that you guys think I didn't mention. Please put it in there, because it does help these folks, especially these folks that have been asking specifically about this and what they can do to make more space in their home and be able to get more food and feel like they can put it somewhere, right? And then you just go from there. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow is 2 videos, right, for both channels. I've got a busy day tomorrow. My sister is moving out, so we've got a lot going on. But I'll see you guys tomorrow, and blessings from my bear cave to yours. And I hope you enjoyed your coffee or your drink. Take care. Bye.